It'll never written about small fray to squeeze in between.
The very beginning of roller derby was back in the 20s, right around the Depression era, and it started off as the Intercontinental Roller Derby. And what they were doing is these all-night kind of like skating, and as a couple you would skate around. They'd also do the dances and stuff, and people would flock to these events in order to get kind of free food and even like a free bed for the night, because it was just total poverty, and it was a way to kind of take your mind off things.
Oh, if you ain't got the do-re-mi, folks, you ain't got the do-re-mi, why, you better go back to beautiful Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Georgia, Tennessee. California is a garden of Eden, a paradise to live in or see. But believe it or not, you won't find it so hot if you ain't got the do-re-mi.
What they would do with these transcontinental roller derby things is go around and around and around, but they'd track how many miles you were going until you went across the entire United States. They'd have a big map and map it out. And then what they found is that the couples got tired, they would like fall down, and that's when the crowds that were watching would get very excited.
There's a pileup on that track.
So they started, kind of, having some couples maybe tripping other couples or, making it happen. And eventually it evolved into having an actual rule set. You would have women play, and then you'd have the men play. And then you'd have the women play and the men play. And they'd all be scoring points for the same team. But they'd also be falling down and, flipping over the rink.
Goodbye, baby, diamond ring. If that diamond ring don't shine, he gonna take it to a private eye. If that private eye can't see, he better not take the ring from me.
Eventually in the 60s and 70s, it got to the point where it was so choreographed and so obvious, but it was really like wrestling in the way that a lot of people think about it. Staged, choreographed, over-the-top fight. The guys would all get into it and they'd hit each other, but they were like doing these big, huge reach-around hits that were obviously not doing anything, and then they'd elbow, and the girls would take off the other girls' helmets and take them by the hair down to the ground. It was kind of crazy, and it kind of died off in the 80s. And in the 90s, early 90s, they tried to bring it back on rollerblades. And they tried to put it on TV again, and it didn't really work out. In the early 2000s, in Texas, and actually in Arizona as well, kind of at the same time, but Texas is really known as kind of the birthplace of modern roller derby. In the very early 2000s, they brought it back, and they said, we don't need any of the stuff that it was before. We still want to do it on roller skates. We want to keep some of the same things. We're still just passing people to make points. But we're not going to have the fights. We're going to have a rule set that's very, discernible. And they made it also an accessible sport by saying, we're going to do away with this bank track that needs a lot of money to raise, and we're going to do flat track. And they started playing women's flat track roller derby. Arizona started doing it too, Seattle, and New York. And they all got together and became the Women's Flat Track Derby Association after a year or two, which then led to more teams coming and jumping on board, because they can get the rules set and they can say, oh, this is exactly what the track needs to be. I've got a flat place. I've got women who are interested. And from there, they were able to build the same rule set, so they were consistently playing across the board the same game. Integrity is huge for the roller derby movement now, and everybody's really proud of what we've done within the last 10 years, we've gone from having no roller derby to having thousands and thousands of players worldwide that are able to all play the same sport and understand the same rules. And it's amazing. And the fact that a majority of it is women is huge and empowering. You've got this whole community of people that this is our passion, and it isn't for the money. I mean, like, we're throwing this tournament we're hoping to break even, and most likely we have, because we scheduled things out very well, but that's not why we did it. It wasn't to make money. It was so that we could have all these awesome teams here and have all of our friends come and visit us here in Eugene, so it was pretty cool.
Straight edge.